your turn to bring us in.
Okay, this is Marshall Barber with Henry McClure.
Henry McClure Light.
We are both real estate professionals. I'm at Valley Realtors. Henry McClure has his own brokerage, which is called
MCRE LLC.
Okay. And whether you're talking about Topeka being a good place to grow potatoes, or a good place to grow your family, or a good place to grow your business, I'd say it's all three. We are the Topeka Factor. We exist primarily to talk about what is going on in Topeka and how it might be of interest to you wherever you might be seeing this.
I'm not so sure I'm going to define that's my existence, but I'll say that's under the umbrella.
Okay, we can say that.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you a question.
Ask me a question.
Why, which is a question in itself, but why aren't you your own broker after all these years? Why haven't you just started Marshall Barber as a broker?
Well, I figure it's easier to ride on Chuck Valley's coattails than.
Isn't Chuck dead?
In some respects, you might say that he is no longer living.
I'm not talking down on Valley. No,
physical.
this is no disparaging.
Well, this.
But I'm just curious that.
Let me remind you, dude, that the name of the show is the Topeka Factor, not the Marshall Barber Factor.
All right.
But
so I struck a chord too personally.
You're probably right. I probably should do that.
I mean, after all these years.
But you know, there's a lot of things that fall under the heading of things we should do.
Right.
That for one reason or another just never seem to get done.
Well, and
like maybe filing taxes.
Well, you're going to want to file your taxes. Think about it, because there's only 700 billionaires.
Yeah.
So after you've got 87,000 new IRS guys.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Oh, those IRS guys. That's.
Well, no. So
that's a. That's a phantom of the overactive.
Did you hear
that of the paranoid of the MAGA QAnon crowd?
The general of how you audit. They're actually auditing the IRS agents. Oh. The Inspector General.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyway, we digress. That has nothing to do with the Topeka Factor.
Yeah, it really doesn't. The IRS situation, the tax situation overall is of some relevance to Topeka because we have such a concentration of tax-free properties in this city,
and which is really unfair.
Which is a bit of a thing.
Think about
federal,
the hospital,
state, county,
but also
city.
Let's just think about Stormont Vale
and all those churches.
Stormont Vale. What part of nonprofit is healthcare?
Or St. Francis.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both. Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing about.
But you want to raise their property taxes?
Yes.
So everybody's medical bill goes up.
Well, they're not discounting them over the fact that they're not profit.
So Henry McClure, the guy who took the last penny
of the bond money in '79,
the guy who wants to take this woman's house.
No.
And is now the guy that wants to.
No, here's the thing about
raise your medical bills.
Is and actually, you've lifted a layer off the onion about the Topeka Factor, and that is government.
That's what we're here for.
Well, no, really, the federal government, the state government, city government, county government. Did you know there's actually a Capitol Plaza Authority that's supposed to monitor development around the Capitol?
Are they still there?
Well, I think so.
The Landmarks Commission.
Yeah, the Landmarks Commission.
So you have.
So they were going to keep a guy from tearing down a building that had no historical significance.
Which was where?
Like 8th and Topeka, the one Cody wants to tear down.
8th and Topeka. Oh, would that be that?
It was like a bus depot or something.
8th and Topeka. Would that be? What was over there? Well, keep going.
Well, anyway.
I think American Investors Life had those buildings at one
But the
time.
thing about it is the subsidies that we provide the guy in Hayes, Kansas. So if every
Yeah.
government building were privately owned and paying real estate taxes, it would be better for our community. But we have far too much government in the community, and that is a Topeka factor issue. Because really what we need to do is we need to figure out how to take the border of Shawnee County and have one governing force.
Yes.
You know, and we should really work on that. I mean, it's as important as putting the planning commissions back together.
It would be another reason, it would be another marketing plus for the area if we could do that, because not many areas have done that.
Yeah, so
It's like, well, keep going.
no, I'm just saying the less government that we have, the better. I mean,
Well, the more, I'd say, as opposed to less, you could say the more efficient. And there's nothing efficient about having this
layer upon layer upon layer of government.
these duplicating, overlapping layers of jurisdiction when you're trying to get something done.
And I'm for seven governing people that manage, that are for Shawnee County.
Look what happens to Wyandotte County, for example. They consolidated,
Yes.
and it's been going great. I can remember in the early '90s, there was a water tower in western Wyandotte County, and that was it, a water tower.
I don't remember that.
Well, I used to go to the Woodlands racetrack. On my way to the Woodlands, I'd see, okay, here's this new water tower, and Burt Cantwell and all these guys were working on getting things going out there. And so city, county, Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, they consolidate. And now, 20 some odd years later, you've got huge office buildings, you've got Cabela's.
You know how my grandfather
you've got-
recovered from the
You got
depression?
the NASCAR racetrack. I mean,
We
yeah,
had 100.
consolidated government.
We had a 120-acre farm in Edwardsville,
Edwardsville, yeah.
and the turnpike went through my grandfather's farm,
Oh, yeah.
and it cut some of the land off completely, and it happened to go through land that he had leased to a guy across the way that was farming the land.
Okay.
So like it cut the condemnation suit, and my grandfather was a lawyer, so he did okay in the condemnation for the turnpike, but that was actually how he recovered from the depression. And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
That would have been late 40s, early 50s.
back in the day,
Yeah.
living through. And that's one of the most beautiful assets that we have in Topeka. I think we have a beautiful history of how we've matured, and I think that's a real neat factor. I love being home, and I love the history that we've got in this community.
And we had similarly in Wyandotte County, very colorful, long history, and they consolidated the city and county governments, and they've grown meteorically since then. Not just because of that, but it's
Well, so that's what we ought to do in a future episode, is a comparison and contrast of Wyandotte County to Shawnee County.
It would be interesting to know if there's a way of doing a study like this. It would be interesting to know the comparison and costs involved from a development standpoint. How much does it cost dealing with regulations in Wyandotte County to get something going, as opposed to getting something going in Shawnee County,
I think that's good.
where you have two different jurisdictions?
The
to deal with?
consolidation factor.
Yeah, city and
Well,
county.
and nobody wants to give up their power. That's the
or
problem.
their jobs. That's understandable.
Well, so
It's like, what would happen to the DEA if the stupid, insane war on drugs were to suddenly go away? All those guys would be out of their jobs.
well, I mean, and plus all the drug regulations to stop drugs, right?
Yeah,
It stopped drug abuse.
I mean, and that's a little bit of a separate subject, but another area of government which some people might be interested in as far as the Topeka factor is concerned, is that we are the capital city of Kansas. And lately, whenever I turn on a national news program, people refer to Kansas in a very positive way because of the election we had.
You mean with the, like everybody worrying about Roe versus Wade?
So if you live in a state where you got a bunch of old white guys trying to tell women that they can't have their own decisions about whether they're going to have kids or not, if that worries you, come to Kansas. We are the free state.
Well, that's a litmus test for, everybody. They're trying to make abortion an election issue instead of inflation. But so Kansas, which is a conservative
Well,
state.
it is an election issue.
Well, yeah, but Kansas is a
If you're a
conservative.
woman-
Kansas is a conservative state, right?
Well, very much so.
And look what we did. I think we acted very appropriately.
A lot of my conservative friends voted no because of the very philosophy that this is not an area that government should be involved in.
Well, so
Unless you're Lindsey Graham.
life goes on, and life goes on,
I'd be in favor of
or
launching.
it doesn't go on. Sorry.
It goes on for most of you.
But what I'm getting at is the world didn't fall apart because of the Supreme Court decision, and Kansas was the litmus test for that.
You've pretty much gotten yourself out of that one.
Yeah, I did. It took a little while.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you. The Topeka factor.
But yeah, the Kansas factor, the Topeka factor, if you are someone that is concerned about that,
Well, yeah. So
this is a state that's moving forward as opposed to a state that's moving backward. And I might add
But
to that.
there's nothing wrong with states' rights, the ability
Well,
for
no.
the states to decide certain rules.
We did exactly what we were told to do. We let the state decide. We also, this state,
Would you really move to a community based on that? Would you change your whole life to go live by people like that?
but what do you mean?
Well, so if you want to live by like-minded people, do you pick up and come to Kansas because of that?
Well, people do that all the time.
Okay, I'm just saying you.
There's a separate,
You're already here.
on the separate end of that spectrum. Look at what's happened to St. Mary's, where people have moved into St. Mary's from all around the planet because they ascribe to that left-handed doctrine of not going along with the what was that, Vatican II?
I'm an Episcopalian.
Latin
so
Mass.
I'm an Episcopalian, so
Yeah.
I understand
Ut
that.
nomnibus glorificator Deus.
All right. We've really gotten off topic today. This is our third episode in one day.
And you can tell.
You can tell. So we're a little punchy.
But well,
But it's okay.
another reason to relocate to Kansas is most people, unless they don't pay their water bill, have a reasonable expectation of when they walk into the kitchen, turn on the tap, guess what they get?
Water.
Drinkable water. Not just water, but
And Darwin said you should adapt to your environment,
drinkable water.
even though
Yeah, you want to put in a plug for your.
Pellegrino. I'm trying to get Pellegrino to be a sponsor of the Topeka Factor.
As well they should. So for the foreseeable future, we're an area that's going to have water. Now, there was a concerning article about some of the Kansas reservoirs in, I guess it was last week, how some of them are kind of filling up with sediment. And
But the Ogallala
Ogallala,
aquifer is flowing.
not for long. But that's southwest Kansas. That area will soon revert to desert. That will not affect us, except for the fact that we're going to have lots of people moving into eastern
Kansas at one time's border was the
Exactly.
all the way to the base of the foothills.
Of the Rockies?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, well.
If you look at this is prior to the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and then they moved all the borders.
Well, that,
We go back 7 generations in Wyandotte, the
Yeah.
Bantleon family.
That would be.
That's a long time.
That is 7 generations.
Yeah.
That would be.
Well, Bianca's 7.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, she's in Kansas City now. She's of the Kansas City Bandleons.
Okay. And is she on which side of the border is she on?
She's on the Kansas side.
In Kansas. Very
She's
good.
in Johnson County.
Yeah, my daughter and her husband and my grandson are in Olathe.
Yeah, that's a great town. I won my first state championship in Olathe, Kansas in 1974.
Something to ponder insofar as the Topeka factor is concerned is whenever I go to Olathe, which is not often enough, it seems like every block has something new just springing up, whether it be mostly new retail now.
You go K10?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I went.
K10 and all these streets like Black Bob and Merlin, every block you've got a new restaurant, a new Super Target, a new something.
Yeah, it's. You know, I lived in Kansas City for a year after I sold my internet company, and I worked for MD Management.
MD Management.
Yeah, and
okay.
I had a really great opportunity to work there with the Frank Morgan Trust. And Frank Morgan was probably the best real estate speculator ever. And Frank he amassed a lot of wealth in retail, shopping centers, in apartments, banking. And he started off as a salesman of sports apparel to Sears.
Really?
And he got to know Sears, and from his relationships with the Sears people, he got into the mall business. But they were the original developers of Antioch, Buckingham, Metcalf South, Oak Park.
Oak Park.
Yeah. So
Now that's one I've been to because that's where Nordstrom's is.
yeah, Nordy's is not leaving and going to Country Club Plaza.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
And Country Club Plaza, didn't they already demo some of their existing structures?
They might have. Macerich actually owns half of the Country Club Plaza with the Todman Company.
Okay.
And I haven't heard really good things about the plaza lately. A lot of vacancy. And some security issues.
We should take, security issues in particular. We should take, you hear about those. We should take the Topeka factor to the Country Club Plaza sometime.
Let's do a live shoot there.
Yeah.
You know what I like is the Cheesecake Factory there.
Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory. Then there's
that's a good restaurant.
There's Ruth Crisp, and there's Capital. What's it called?
Capital Grill.
Yeah, Capital Grill.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Tidy little steakhouse.
Well, so anyway, the
That's what we
government.
need. How about in Topeka? How about a steakhouse? Now we've got the North Star.
Well,
By the
I
way,
love North Star.
By the way,
I'd like to have him on our show.
I down at Jazz Fest this year in New Orleans, I ran into a guy who's a media consultant. He travels all around the country, consulting TV stations, and the one thing he remembered about Topeka, having been here once or twice for whomever, was the North Star Steakhouse. That was the one thing, and he remembered the details. He remembered the gravel parking lot, and the fries and gravy, as well as the porterhouse.
I went out. Porterhouse.
Porterhouse steak.
That's a big steak.
That's a big steak.
Isn't that a?
That's a Henry McClure sized steak.
Oh man, Isn't that a fillet and a strip
I think you're
together?
right.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
porterhouse?
All right. I think that's it.
My brother lives in a house called the porterhouse.
Good for him.
I'm not kidding you. It's at 15. It's just off of College Hill.
I did not. The porterhouse.
Yeah, it's called the porterhouse.
Okay.
It actually has a plaque on it.
Really?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
walk in there and you want to become a carnivore. But anyway, Jeff Shell,
yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Shell, he is a cool dude. And he and his wife operate the North Star.
Yeah.
And it's a going concern.
Yeah.
Last time I went in there, 3 people started talking about a video that I made.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, it kind of was inspiring to keep shooting videos.
Mm-hmm.
But people were picking up, and that's why I hope the Topeka factor gets some legs. That people can take you know, because there's some important issues that make real estate sales and make livability, you know, all a factor to, you know, to our business day to day.
Sure, sure.
I would never let interest rates stop me from buying a house today.
I wouldn't either.
And I'm not going to need an abortion, so we're fine.
On interest rates, you mentioned that period when rates were 17 or 18%.
Yeah, 18 to 22.
So if you've got $1 million, you can put it into a cash fund and make 170 grand a year and not do anything.
You're getting 17% on your money?
Well, I'm saying this is what happens with interest rate increases. Jerome Powell comes along, bumps the rates up to 8%. If you got $1 million, all you got to do is put it in a cash fund, and you've made $80,000 in a year, as opposed to risking that money for building something which will put people to work or hiring more people.
Yeah, but what are you talking about? That 8%, what
more
are the
inventory.
treasuries going for? Because last time I looked at treasuries, they were like at 3%.
Okay, but all I'm saying is that when someone chooses between passive investing and active investing, there comes a point in which active investing is riskier and doesn't make as much sense as passive investing. If your passive investing is up here, thanks to Jerome Powell, and your active investing is down here, again, thanks to Jerome Powell.
Well, so from my standpoint, as far as
And the funny thing about it is, I don't think there's anything that anybody can do about it. In other words, call your congressperson. What can they do about it? Nothing. It's the Federal Reserve.
yeah,
Call the president. What can he do about it? Nothing.
have you ever called the White House?
I might.
No, have you ever?
I think I have.
Because they'll take a message at the switchboard.
Yeah. I think I might.
I bet you could. I think you could probably talk to Roger Marshall or Jerry Moran if you called them. I think you could get to them.
You could probably have.
You could sit in their office until they talk to you.
Yeah, but again, what could, assuming that either one of them wanted to do anything to help you, what could they do with regard to interest rates?
I was in a luncheon and Jerry Moran was there. So I threw him a couple of softballs.
Oh, you did?
And he remembered me.
What would be
later
an
on.
example?
Oh, I can't remember what it was, you know, but I gave him some layups.
Mm-hmm.
And like later on, he saw me and he goes, "Hey, I remember you from the Rotary luncheon." And I go, "Well, yeah."
Well, you know, both of those guys, coming from Western Kansas originally, if I were them, I'd certainly be bearing down on this Ogallala aquifer issue.
So you're really worried about the water running out in Western Kansas.
I'm not worried about it, but there are.
But you mention it.
There are people who are extremely worried about it. Some Western Kansas bankers might be really worried about it, since they've got all this money loaned out to grain farmers who need those irrigation systems to bring in their crops every year.
Did you just give us a time?
No, but it's about to be 5.
Well, we're coming
5
down
minutes.
to 5. I think this has been our least productive show of
Well, it's been kind of a blur.
the Topeka factor.
Maybe Nick could give us a critique.
No.
Have we made any sense on this issue?
But you know something? We did touch on some concerns about our community and what creates the Topeka factor.
Development rules,
And there's nothing more
consolidation.
There's nothing more of a factor in development than the government. And that's, you know, we've got to make it developer friendly in the community. And, oops,
Uh-oh.
sorry. And we also have to have a one size fits all when it comes down to, you know, distributing gratuities.
And you know what solves higher prices? Higher prices. That's what the market does. When prices get too high, people quit buying and prices go down. On the other hand, if you have higher interest rates, it chokes off to choke off the demand, when instead you should be stimulating the supply, because if you've got 20 people selling coffee for $5 a cup, we start looking for someone selling it for $4 a cup.
Or you make it at home.
Huh?
Or you make it at home.
Yeah, or you make it here with
Yeah.
the Studio 104 coffee machine, which,
We'll nick them for a
which
cup.
we've been depleting.
We're going to nick them for a cup.
It's
before
going
we leave.
down. It's going down faster than the Ogallala Aquifer, sports fans.
Well, look, I want to thank you for your time today, Marshall. I enjoy our studio time, and I think as our show evolves, we'll cover some good ground.
We're evolving, and we're getting there.
So, Nick, Nicholas, anything you want to add to today's show?
We're
I can tell you guys are improving.
Hey, he says we're getting better, so that's good. I'd like
of
to
course we had
thank.
a pretty low bar.
I'd like to thank. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. If you watched the whole episode, I love you.
So do I. I love you more.
He does. I
More.
believe him.
785-969-4986.
Hey, you can't miss his phone number. He has the best sign for his phone number known to man.
Oh,
And if you need Henry McClure, well, all you got to go is to 10th and Topeka Boulevard
right away.
and look at the northwest corner.
I got whiny emails.
Highest and best use. That's what we're going to figure out for him. And I don't think it's a pizza restaurant. I think it's office space.
Yeah.
But and if you need Henry McClure, I'm 785-383-9994.
There you go.
There you go. How we doing on time?
I think we're out of here. 2 minutes.
All right. Anything you? So we gotta sell Plas. We got to get people fired up about Westboro,
I'm getting calls about the Westboro house.
and I got to get 21st and Adams moving,
Oh, you were going to say
and the
something.
TIF district.
You were going to share something about that, or do we have time now? The 21st and Adams history or something like that?
Oh well, that's another show.
Okay, future episode.
All right, Henry McClure live.